Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Gears of War 4 Inconceivable difficulty video walkthrough. This is Act 1-4. It's called A Few Snags. This is the first mission, the final mission of Act 1, and it is the first of the defensive missions that are based around the Horde mode. The premise is simple. You get a fabricator, you get some points, you have to set up some fortifications, and then you will generally have something like 4 to 6 egress points where the enemies are going to come from, and you simply have to survive. These sections are way more intimidating than they are actually difficult, and if it gives you any faith, I did not die on the first 2 waves. In fact, I don't even think I died on the 3rd wave. I think I did all of these deathless, but I think I accidentally dropped my gun, so I had to restart because I couldn't find where it landed. Something stupid like that. What I'm trying to say is not that you're not going to have, a difficult time, because you might. Some people will have trouble here. But if I can do that coming back to the game and barely paying attention and not really, doing any of the elite strategies, then you should be fine, right? And what I wanted to do here is I didn't want to build any wire. Building wires is really good because it slows the enemy down and it damages them ambiently. But I wanted this to be swift and quite quick. So if you don't build wire, the enemies get up quicker and hopefully you can kill them faster. So instead I focused on picking turrets. And I've got a wonderful little kill box that I build at the back near the door, which is going to enable you to sit safely in cover and then allow the turrets to kill everything for you. And then I can kind of just be passive and stay out of trouble. And it all goes really well. And it's the same for every defensive mission like this. It all goes really well. And I remember this mission being quite difficult because of the Guardians killed you instantly. And I didn't really have the best strategy for it. But I've killed a lot of Guardians now, and a lot of Guardians that are far worse than this one. So it didn't really give me any trouble. I don't know if they've messed with the AI, but I would definitely say this is one of the sequences where Inconceivable felt easier. So if that should give you some hope, because I know that these can be quite difficult moments. But another thing I'll be doing in this walkthrough is I'll be carrying the Custom Lancer for the full duration of the game to get the achievement for doing it. It's not always the best decision, because there's times when you want to pick up something else, but I committed to it and I enjoyed it and it worked, and if I can do it carrying it without being able to get, 2 fantastic weapons, you should be fine, right? It all just adds together into hopefully something great. So, for the second wave, I'm going to build one turret over here. I'm going to face it just like that. The only fear of this turret being there is that if the Guardian fires a missile at it, the splash damage could kill you in cover. That's the only risk to your safety. On this run, I never had that happen, but there's always the potential that it can, so you want to be aware of that. But you should be okay. There's only 3 Guardians, and because they have less HP, they do go down pretty quick. But second wave's beginning. Starts off with some trackers. I have a Retro Lancer, which is a very powerful gun. It does 90 damage a bullet, according to the statistics that I was looking up the other day. The standard Lancer does 55 damage a bullet. This does 90, so it's almost twice as strong per shot. But it comes at a reduced clip size and incredible recoil. So you want to be as careful as you can with it. Pop shot it, feather the trigger, do what you can. My main uses for the Retro Lancer is kind of to use it like an SMG when they get closer. I use the standard Lancer for distance, and I use the Retro Lancer for when they're a little closer, and I just swap between the 2. And it worked really well. I never use the bayonet charge. You have to charge for much longer in this game, so it just seems like a very dangerous proposition. One of the best features of always having a Retro Lancer is that when you press B, it will one-hit kill Juvies. And if you can believe it, in my insane walkthrough for this game, people said that I wasn't on insane because when I punched the enemies, they died in 1 hit. And what those people didn't realise, because they had no brain, is that they were using a gun that doesn't do that, and I was using a gun that does. So the Torque Bow and the Retro Lancer both have blades on them, and because of that, they get a damage boost on their melee. If you punch a Wretch, or if you punch a Juvie with the snub, it's not going to die. If you punch it with the Retro Lancer, it will die. The blade will cut. But there's me baiting the DR1 to make him detonate, and we can continue with the rest of this fight. So, Don't be that guy, folks. Just don't be that guy. And you know the good thing about Inconceivable when it comes to people who love to go on YouTube and blame their own failures on people lying in videos, is that you do not get the right amount of ammunition from the boxes or for your weapons in this difficulty, so there's literally no way this can be anything but Inconceivable. And that's the glory of this kind of walkthrough. It's the same with the plane fight. The plane fight's way different on Inconceivable because it dies really fast. It's just you die really fast as well, so it's super frustrating. And it's the same with the damage. The damage that you take, like, insane, they don't damage you the same. It's not as high. They still hurt a lot, but they don't hurt like this hurts. That's a grenade. I think it's friendly though. No idea what he was shooting just then. So something worth noting as well is that there's an ammo box that will never run out on the left hand side of this room. So this is the one you want to go to as much as you can. And I don't need to tell you that an active reload is important. It's a 30% damage increase, which is a lot. But I think that's on the standard Lancer. I don't know what it is for every weapon, but it's kind of the ballpark average. If you think of it as about 30% increase in damage, that's a lot. It adds up per bullet. So you definitely want to be hitting those actives, and it can be tricky. The controller that I'm using has a broken back input, so every so often my controller will not move backwards, so it makes retreating quite difficult. And the D-pad is really bad, so it's difficult to change weapons. And you might be thinking, Chris, why the hell would you use this shitty pad on this difficulty if you know it's that balked? Well, the alternative is that my other controller, which has every button working fine except the button that you active reload with. So the right bumper doesn't work every time, which is really frustrating. So I've kind of got two shitty pads, but the lesser of the two evils for this run was the one with all the problems because active reloading is so important. But did you see how quick that Guardian went down? That went down insanely quickly. And another thing too that you witnessed just then, but it's difficult to capitalise on. When the Guardians first spawn, they do not have shields. If you can hit them with an active on a long shot or something, you can do incredible damage to him before he even gets his shield up. It's really good. Like, if you preempt that spot with a salvo and get maybe 2 or 3 salvos on his position as he's spawning, you might even be able to kill him as he spawns. But I'm out of ammunition now, but the turrets are helping. See that turret? Look at that. Absolutely railing it. And if it wasn't for that stupid statue, that dude would have died really quickly. But due to your team taking so much aggro here, you're never in trouble from the missiles except for just then. And now that I've got the ammunition back, we can proceed to take this guy on. Always mark them so that the team does everything they can, which is almost nothing. But it still helps, in my mind. And here's the Guardian just being an absolute nightmare. Technically they're Watchers. One is a Guardian, one is a Sentinel. I think it depends on what weapon they have. They can come with the salvo, they can come with the tri-shot. The tri-shot's the worst, because combine the accuracy with the damage and the rate of fire, it will kill you way faster than any salvo ever will. Because the salvo is predominantly quite inaccurate, and you usually die to salvos by being unlucky. But let's have a look. Go and pick up the weapon, second wave is done. And it looks really easy, doesn't it? And it kind of is. But I hate to say that because there's going to be that one person who's having a miserable time, because that's just video games, isn't it? You can't... Oh, by the way, guys, this is not a good spot for turrets, so don't bother doing what I'm doing now. Feel free to put them anywhere else. My idea here was that any enemies that went in front of the statue that I couldn't shoot at would get killed by 2 turrets. And it sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? The problem is, I think either trackers or DR1s end up detonating themselves and they kill the turrets really quickly. Because the trackers, when they get close to your fortifications, they start rotating, and it just does passive damage until they stop doing it, and they stop doing it when it's dead. And the only thing you can do then is kick them away and shoot them, but if your AI shoots them, they'll blow up and damage the fortifications, so it's kind of a lose-lose situation. It's really difficult to control. But nothing is going to come back here and cause any trouble to you just because of the nature of your turrets, your cover, and your team. And it's a very safe place to be. I had no idea how safe this was, and I even used this area at the end of my insane walkthrough, but I had no idea just how good this was. Coming into this walkthrough was different though, as I've mentioned. I cannot stress the importance of playing a lot of Horde mode, because it teaches you what to do when the shit hits the fan, with numbers far superior to what we're facing right now. It truly is incredibly difficult. It's unfair, but that's what makes it interesting, right? But Keep on feathering them. Couple of Concords flying over, dropping more enemies. I wish if you shot the balls as they drop, that they just destroyed. They just completely ceased to function. Look at that. See that? Just a million fucking trackers wrecked the turret instantly. That's why that turret was a bad idea. Because the trackers are so devious with their movement that they didn't even trigger its proximity sensor. They just snuck under its barrel and just killed it. So, not the best turret placement. You could put them in front of where the cover is. You know the two pillars near this door? Put them in front of those two things and they'll just shoot directly forward. That could be okay. Oh, and another thing as well, guys. If you see me like messing around, it's because I'm just kind of waiting for the enemies to get closer. I traditionally wouldn't recommend being silly on a difficulty as harsh as this one, but it's just one of those things where if I sit behind the cover waiting for enemies to come to me, all you do when you watch it as a viewer is you see some dude just sat hugging a box, right? But if you see me flitting about like an idiot, it at least gives you something to see. So that was my logic in the quiet moments. I usually teabag on the wall for victory, and I bounce around like an idiot when nothing's happening. So it's kind of an insight into my mentality in those moments. As Oscar backs away and a couple more DBs come here and the turrets get to shine now. And the thing I love about this strategy is that I do not even have to shoot. My turrets will do everything for me. You could probably do this entire section without shooting a bullet if you place your turrets correctly and you get the right traffic. That is 2 DR1s with tri-shots. This is a very dangerous wave right now. You want to throw a shot grenade at them to get rid of them quickly, but I'm not that bothered. He's about to detonate anyway. Like, look at this! The balls on this kid, right? Moves out of cover when there's a tri-shotting DR1 on Inconceivable. But that's how comfortable I am with these scenarios, because I've seen so much worse. And I know it sounds like I'm, oh, you know, look at me, I'm so good at this game, which is not true at all. But it's one of those things, and I'm sure you're the same. Once you've done Horde enough, and you've been surrounded by hellish legions, like, it just doesn't seem like much, does it? 2 DR1s and a lot of cover. But I picked up this right here, because I think there's a Guardian. I think the final enemy is a Guardian, right? And the tri-shots, for some reason, the most bullets I've ever seen in this weapon when I've picked it up has been 39. So you do not get a lot of ammunition in the heavy weapons. The biggest threat when you use this is the time it takes to pull it up and to pull it down. That is the time it takes to die, so be very, very careful. And this is one of those weird moments where I'm not entirely certain what's left. I think it's a couple of trackers and a couple of shepherds on the left. Somebody goes down. Oh, it's another 2 DR1s. So use this gun, but be careful of the overheating. You generally won't get a chance to cool the gun because there's not enough bullets in it, but... So, there you go, that's the sound of a Guardian spawning, and that is a DB with an M-bar, that's 2 snipers, so be very careful with those enemies. But I don't know if I mentioned this on my first run. For the more observant people out there, it's kind of obvious, but the easiest way to tell that the DBs were designed by Damon Bird is also, of course, because of the acronym of his name, but the voice lines are done by the same voice actor. So Baird's voice is mechanized and put on the robots. So if you've got a keen ear, it was very obvious to tell where these things came from. Even though you can you could probably get there just from the knowledge of what Baird was like when it comes to technology. And the fact that the cogs were using them. But I just found it quite interesting that they used the same voice. At the same time though, I find it really bizarre. That's the end of the mission, by the way. When the fabricator shuts, it means you've won. So there's my victory dance. I hope you don't have any trouble there, guys, as I did not, but thank you very much for watching, and if you do, I hope the video helps you get through it. You take care now.